Legacy of the Twin Bond. Chapter 15. The path into the blooming grounds began as a silver braid of grass pressed flat by ancient hooves and paw prints, winding through stands of birch whose white trunks gleamed in late morning sun. The air felt weightless, held aloft by a fragrance of distant blossoms and damp earth. Petals drifted like snow, yet never quite touched the ground, swirling around the travelers' cloaks as though curious. Every footstep, every quiet inhale, seemed to wake slivers of soft light that rippled outward and vanished. Lyana walked beside Lucian at the head of the column. They said little, yet each felt the other's thoughts rustle like silk. Her wolf padded just behind her heartbeat, ears pricked. "The field welcomes us." Lucian's wolf answered with a low rumble of anticipation. "Let it see our truth." Their fingers brushed often. Each graze threaded warmth through their arms and into the chest where shared calm bloomed. Behind them, Lyora and Lyrian followed, cloaks nearly touching. Lyora's eyes traced the petals caught in unseen breezes, while Lyrian's gaze shifted between her and the path, protective without pressing. Her wolf breathed a soft hum of gratitude. His wolf replied with steady confidence. "We walk where hearts grow." Companions kept respectful distance. Kaelin led Aiden by the hand, pointing out clusters of wild strawberries. Darius checked the line's rear while Isara conversed softly with Ella. Kieran carried his lute slung across his back, fingers twitching with melodies half-formed. The elders lingered farther behind. Raven and Thalia walked together, heads bent in quiet talk. Lucian, the Lycan King, and Aldrich paced with Thalos and the shaman, voices low, eyes thoughtful. At the meadow's lip, the grass opened into a vast glade, ringed by towering oaks whose branches intertwined far overhead, forming a living vault streaked with sun. Every blade shimmered, and thousands of buds, round, glowing, colorless, trembled on slender stems. A collective breath escaped the company. Even the wolves paused, tails lifted as though greeting an old friend. Thalos raised his staff lightly. "The land knows why you have come," he said, voice hushed but sure. "It waits for honest hearts." He gestured for the pairs to step forward. The elders and companions fell back, forming a subtle circle at the glade's edge, leaving the 4 heirs and their wolves in a hush of golden light. Lyana's pulse fluttered. She turned to Lucian. "Ready?" "I have been ready since the first time you laughed by the river," he said, offering his hand. She threaded her fingers through his. Petals drifted around their joined palms, flickering bright, before fading into air. Their wolves trotted ahead, sniffing blossoms without breaking stems, then sat facing inward, guardians of the moment. Lyora's breath caught in her throat as she felt the hum beneath her boots, an echo of heartbeats beneath the soil. Lyrian squeezed her hand. "We walk slow," he murmured. "No hurry." She smiled, stepping toward a shallow stream that wound through the glade. Water shone pale green, reflecting buds overhead. Lyana and Lucian moved beneath an arch of flowering branches that drooped low, heavy with white petals tipped in blush. The arch leaned inward at their passing, releasing a fragrant shower that caught in Lyana's hair. Lucian lifted a stray petal from her cheek, thumb lingering longer than needed. She watched him, eyes lit with tender astonishment. "When I was small," he said, voice barely louder than the creak, "I dreamed of walking in a place like this. There was always a girl ahead of me, her braid flying. I never saw her face." He traced a curl resting on her shoulder. "Now, I look back and realize every dream was you." Lyana's chest tightened. "I never thought anyone dreamed of me before they knew me," she whispered. "I think part of me always did." He kissed her forehead. At the gentle press of lips, the branches above quivered and spilled a second cascade of petals. His hand trembled when it cupped her cheek. She laid her own atop his, steadying him with a smile that told him trembling was allowed. Across the glade, Lyora and Lyrian knelt by the stream. Lyrian moved slowly, weaving short stems into a braid down Leora's hair. Pale yellow blooms dotted the length like starlight. "You are spring after winter silence," he said. Leora's cheeks glowed warmer than sunlight. Her wolf's voice fluttered like wings. "He sees all of you." She touched his wrist where the silver fox charm glinted. "And you are quiet thunder," she replied. "You arrive without roar and change the sky." Lyrian's wolf let out a pleased growl. He kissed the crown of her head, then rested his forehead against hers. The water behind them brightened, shimmering with tiny sparks, as though reflecting a flame none could see. Back at the perimeter, Kalen exhaled slowly, crossing his arms. "Look at them," he murmured to Aiden, who clutched his side. "They're brighter than sun." Aiden's eyes shone wide. "Love makes flowers open," he whispered, pointing as buds near the pairs loosened, petals spreading to reveal palest pink, pale gold, silver white, and dawn blue. Each color mirrored the emotion radiating from the twins. Kieran hummed a soft chord under his breath. Darius elbowed him lightly. "Sing later," he said, though his own eyes brimmed with reverence. Raven leaned into Thalia. "I remember when their first cries filled our halls," she said. Thalia squeezed her fingers. "Now their hearts fill the world." Lyana and Lucian reached the glade center where a wide trunk rose, branches reaching like arms. A hollow at its roots formed a natural seat draped in moss. Lucian lowered himself and drew Lyana to sit facing him. They kept their hands linked. Lyana inhaled once. "I was whole without you," she began, voice carrying clear, despite its softness. "I found strength in my sister, in my pack, in myself. But I am more alive with you. You aren't my missing half. You're the echo that shows my voice is worth hearing." Lucian's eyes glistened. "You were never mine to claim," he answered, fingers firm around hers. "I was afraid to fail you, but now I know love isn't possession. It's a path, and I choose to walk beside you as long as you allow." The tree behind them shimmered, bark lines glowing. A warm wind stirred leaves overhead, whispering like distant applause. Lyana's wolf spoke. "Real." Lucian's wolf echoed. "Steady." Across the stream, Lyora rose, pulling Lyrian's hand so they stood ankle-deep in water. Lilies floated around their calves. She pressed her palm to his chest. "You saw me not as reflection, but as fire," she said. "You believed my silence held whole worlds." Lyrian swallowed, breath shallow. "You quieted the war inside me," he replied. "You teach me stillness is strength, and your light sets the path of every step I take." The stream brightened, small ripples casting prismatic arcs onto their faces. Wolves on the bank stood, ears forward, tails sweeping once across moss. Leora's wolf murmured pride. Lyrian's wolf answered, heart open. Buds across the meadow burst open in a sudden wave, petals lifting and swirling skyward like lanterns. Soft pulses of light rolled through grass, each wave resonating with the couple's heartbeats. Elders gasped, Kalen's spear dipped in awe. Aiden clapped, laughing. Petals whirled around him like he wore a festival crown. Lyana cupped Lucian's cheek and drew him into a kiss under falling blossoms. The glade hushed around them. Wind stilled, petals suspended midair, as if reluctant to interrupt. His hand trembled but stilled beneath her gentle touch. She felt the lines of his jaw, the warmth of lips promising quiet forever. When they parted, petals fell again, carpeting moss in pink and white. Lyora leaned into Lyrian on the pine's mossy root. The world narrowed to breath, brushing skin, to the faint brush of blossoms in her hair. Their lips met, slow, certain. His arms closed around her, anchoring peace he'd never believed possible. Above, pine needles caught rising light and glimmered like green glass. At the glade's edge, Thalos lowered his head, tears bright. The shaman whispered, "The blooming grounds accept. Raven's voice cracked with proud ache. Let their joy be shield enough. In that hushed moment a new ripple moved. Dissonant, slight. Aiden, chasing petals, froze beneath a low branch. A black feather quivered at eye level. His small fingers reached. Kalen caught his wrist softly, lifting his gaze to the feather. A chill crept beneath the warmth. Thalos felt it too, a tug on thin strings of emotion connecting field to heart. He straightened, eyes narrowing. Raven and Thalia felt it in their chests, a subtle pull like a breath caught mid-exhale. Lyana sensed a momentary tightening of Lucian's hand. Liora caught a flicker of cloud shadow in Lyrian's eyes. Yet fear failed to root. Instead, both pairs drew closer. Lyana whispered against Lucian's brow. Let shadows try. We walk in light. Liora echoed across the bond. The stronger the pull, the tighter we hold. The feather drifted free, spiraling earthward. Before it touched grass, a warm gust lifted it skyward and carried it away. The shaman exhaled relief. Thalos whispered gratitude to the unseen forces still guarding love. As dusk seeped into the glade, the pairs remained where they stood. Lyana and Lucian beneath their flowering tree. Liora and Lyrian beside the whispered stream. Wolves circled once, then curled at their feet, sighing contentment. Companions prepared a modest camp against the trunk of a giant oak. Tents loosely pitched, a single fire kindled low to keep chill at bay. Evening meal was gentle, flatbread warmed on stone, sweet root mash seasoned with wild mint. A flask of berry wine passed between elders. Laughter rose without rattle, stories told in soft tones. Darius recounted his first meeting with Isara. Kieran teased Ella about her childhood stubbornness. Kalen admitted Aiden had outrun him 3 times that morning. When stars dotted the black velvet sky, the twins settled onto rolled blankets placed in the open, rejecting tents in favor of open air. Petals drifted down still, catching starlight like flecks of frost. Wolves lay curled around their humans, one at each pair's feet, tails touching ankles. Lucian brushed hair from Liana's cheek. Tell me a truth, he whispered. She smiled, gaze flicking to a cluster of blooms above. Every time I look at you, my heart says home. She traced the rune hidden beneath his sleeve, warm beneath her touch. He leaned to kiss her softer than wind. My truth. I never believed peace was possible until your voice made silence beautiful. Nearby, Liora lay with her head on Lyrian's shoulder, pointing at constellations. See the small arc of 5 stars? That is us, she murmured. 2 bright in the middle, 2 guarding at edge, 1 guiding above. Lyrian kissed her palm. And that one guiding above, he said, is our love. Her wolf gave a low hum of approval. His wolf answered, true north. Midnight found all quiet. The elders slipped into tents, companions to their roles. Only Kalen kept last watch, spear across knees, gaze on treeline. The twins slept in 2 circles of scattered petals, wolves wrapped like living blankets. If distant shadows crept beyond oaks, they found no opening. The blooming ground stood sentinel to hearts that beat louder than any approaching darkness. Somewhere before dawn, the glade breathed a deeper hush. Petals settled, every bud closed in gentle sleep. The wolves lifted snouts to the faint bloom of morning and released one soft howl, no alarm, only reverence. The twin pair stirred, fingers seeking fingers, sighing smiles before eyes opened. The sky blushed rose. Mist hovered low. And in that first fragile light, Lyana and Lucian, Liora and Lyrian sat up, hair tousled, cheeks warm. They looked upon each other, upon glowing buds, upon wolves waiting with patient eyes. Love hung in the hush like promise. Lyana pressed her mark against Lucian's palm. Their bond pulsed once. Quiet thunder. Liora and Lyrian mirrored. The glade answered with a single petal drifting down to land on Lyana's knee. She lifted it, tucked it into Lucian's breast pocket. Across the clearing, Lyrian did the same, sliding a petal behind Liora's ear. Camp soon bustled, fire stoked, bread warmed. Aiden emerged, yawning, hair wild. Ella smoothed it, kissing his crown. Kaelin handed Raven a steaming cup of tea, murmuring that trail ahead looked calm. Raven nodded, eyes bright. Thalos and the shaman approached the pairs. "You have woven light thicker than prophecy," Thalos said, voice reverent. "Guard it." The shaman added, "And let it guard you." Each twin bowed heads in silent thanks. Before breaking camp, Lucian led Lyana to the flowering tree once more. He drew a length of slim silver chain from his pouch, a pendant shaped like a small leaf, veins etched so fine they caught flame of sunrise. "For you," he said, hooking it behind her neck. "A leaf from the tree that watched us choose." She inhaled, fingers over the leaf. "Then keep part of it too." From her pocket, she produced a slender thread of bark, twisted and sealed with beeswax. She tied it around his wrist. "The root that felt our truth." Across the glade, Liora brought out a silk ribbon colored dusk blue, embroidered with the silver fox and the rune for peace. She wrapped it around Lyrian's sword hilt. He, in turn, placed a carved wooden moonflower into her palm, petals painted faint gold. When her fingers closed, a ripple of warmth spread through the bud and glowed softly. Wolves barked as if approving these tokens, tails sweeping morning grass. Kaelin raised spear, calling the company to march. Everyone assembled, spirits light. Elders cast last glances at the blooming grounds, gratitude shining in their eyes. As they walked, buds behind them closed, petals nestled to rest. Yet the light woven there followed in hearts beating steady. Ahead lay unknown paths, distant threats, storms gathering. But the twins walked with shoulders brush-touching, fingers ready to clasp. Wolves trotted at strides matched, ears forward, eyes bright. The day stretched full of quiet promise. And though no one spoke it aloud, every soul in that company felt the same hush of certainty. Darkness might stir, but it would find 4 hearts standing together, shielded by choice, rooted in truth, blooming with love. Soft light warmed the travelers' backs as they left the blooming grounds. Morning broadened into a pale gold arch overhead, washing treetops, cloaks, and wolf fur in gentle glow. Petals still clung to hair and collars like forgotten confetti, fluttering free whenever someone turned or laughed. Even Kaelin, stern sentinel, found himself smiling at the faint, sweet scent that lingered. The path rose into a low ridge. From that height they saw rolling woodland ahead, shimmering where sunlight caught afternoon haze. Beyond, a blue-green slip of river traced the horizon. Lucian's wolf lifted his muzzle, drawing in fresh currents. "Safe enough for now," the wolf assured. Lyana's wolf answered with a gentle hum. "Hearts guard the trail." The company moved at an easy pace. Kieran strummed soft chords while walking, fingers gliding over strings in a tune that mirrored the lightness around them. Aiden marched in time, swinging a stick like a child's baton, directing invisible dancers among the pines. Ella and Isara traded herb lore, pausing to pluck sprigs of sage from roadside clusters. Darius listened, wearing a grin too reluctant to vanish. Lyana drifted beside Lucian. She brushed stray petals from his shoulder, letting her fingers linger against the wool. He turned his head, a smile tilting his mouth. Their eyes spoke more than words could. Wonder, steadiness, the promise of new chapters. Behind them, Liora and Lyrian walked hand in hand. She had woven a crown from thin willow branches, threading lily petals along its curve. At random moments, she set it atop Lyrian's dark hair, calling him Forest King. He complained only long enough to watch her laugh, then kept it balanced proudly. His wolf teased, "You wear joy better than iron." Her wolf giggled, a flurry of silver spark. As noon neared, Kaelin led them to a clearing sloped toward a clear spring-fed pool. The water lay still as mirror glass, reflecting a sky dotted with white clouds. Willows dipped long fronds at the pool's rim. Mapping the terrain, Kaelin concluded they were a comfortable half-march ahead of any possible tail. He signaled rest. Blankets spread beneath willow shade. Ella laid out rounds of flatbread, slices of smoked fish, berries steeped in honey water. Aiden fetched cups of cold spring water, solemn as any royal page. Kieran's lute found a happier rhythm, notes skipping across the pool. Lyana and Lucian claimed the foot of a fallen log half buried in moss. She bit into a berry, juice staining her lips. Lucian leaned, brushing thumb over the stain before reclaiming the taste with a gentle kiss. A rustle behind them revealed their wolves observing with amused eyes. Lucian's wolf grumbled in content approval. Lyana's wolf offered a soft bark, as if applauding courage and sweetness. Not far away, Liora settled her willow crown on the bank, kicking off boots to dip toes in the cool water. Lyrian loosened his cloak clasp and sat beside her. He laced their fingers again, thumb stroking circles on her skin. She exhaled, the sound part sigh, part hymn. They talked about ordinary things, what early summers smelled like near Silverclaw Fortress, the best way to spice nettle soup, how pine sap sometimes stuck in hair for days after training outside. Conversation wasn't filler. It was invitation to live within each other's quieter memories. Her wolf whispered, "He lives in your small details." His wolf answered, "They are constellations." After food, Raven approached the twins. She rested a hand on Lyana's shoulder, another on Liora's hair, smoothing petals still caught in dark strands. Her voice shook softly. She spoke of pride, of watching them step beyond childhood myths into their own legends. She reminded them that love forged here would shape how future packs understood strength. Lucian the Lycan King spoke next, eyes on his sons and daughters in bond. He told them peace is a sword, sheathed not through surrender, but through choosing not to swing at shadows. His palm rested a moment on Lucian's shoulder, then Lyrian's. In that silent exchange, each son felt generations of guardianship pass like a baton into new hands. An hour later, Kaelin rose to scout the ridge. Aiden practically hopped behind until Kaelin relented, instructing him on quiet steps and how to read bent grass. Darius joined flank, leaving companions in hush. Lyana lay back on blanket, head pillowed on Lucian's thigh. She traced the leaf pendant at her neck, voice low. "What do you hope for next?" she asked across their bond rather than aloud. Lucian answered in thought first. "To give you mornings where fear never wakes early." Then he said quietly, "I plan to build a hall with windows facing sunrise, so I remember today forever." She tipped her head to meet his gaze. "Then I'll raise gardens below those windows, so every dawn smells sweet." Their wolves listened and both gave gentle growls of approval. Lucian bent to kiss her again, deeper, until the world narrowed to warmth of hands sliding against skin beneath cloak edges. He pulled back, breath mingling with hers, and laughed under his breath. "If the elders peek, they'll see hearts, not politics." She winked. "Let them learn." Liora waded to mid-shin in the pool. Lyrian sat on the bank watching ripples halo around her calves. She scooped water, letting it pour between cupped palms. "Feels like new beginnings," she murmured. Lyrian rolled trousers, stepped in, joining her. Water-cooled heat that had built behind his ribs. He cupped her cheek wet with droplets, thumb smoothing moisture away. She leaned into the touch. Their wolves lounged in grass, tails sweeping rhythmically. He spoke simple truth. "Every battle I feared loses power when you're near." She closed eyes, whispering, "Your presence calms storms before they break." Their lips met. Water lapped gentle rhythm, echoing heartbeats. On shore, Isara nudged Ella. "Look at them," she said. "Hope is learning to walk." Ella wiped a tear she called dust. Kieran strummed a lullaby soft enough to blend with breeze. Afternoon stretched lazy. Clouds drifted, petals occasionally rode wind from the distant glade and landed on shoulders. Lucian beat Lyana in 3 rounds of stone toss across the pool. She pouted. He kissed the pout away. Liora taught Lyrian how to shape tiny reed boats. His first floated crooked, sank after 3 breaths. She applauded anyway. Just when peace felt endless, Kalen returned, brows furrowed. 2 riders sighted West Ridge, he reported. Moving careful, not charging. Could be scouts. Darius stood, stringing bow. Lucian rose instantly, eyes narrowing though breath stayed even. Lyana felt a flicker of tension. Her wolf bristled faintly. Thalos stepped forward, staff tapping moss. Hold fear in open hand, he advised. Not clenched. He closed his eyes, sensing. Faint ripple of uneasy energy brushed around hearts like cool breeze. The shaman added, curiosity more than aggression. Testing edges. Lucian glanced at Lyana. Across their bond, he thought, I will not let fear rewrite today. She answered, nor will I. He turned to Kalen. Post sentries, but we stay. Kalen nodded, assigning Darius and Isara to shadow ridge lines. Aiden tugged Kalen's sleeve. Do petals fight? He asked. Kalen knelt. Petals remind warriors what they defend, he said. The scouts did not approach. As sun dipped toward treetops, their distant silhouettes vanished, perhaps reporting back. The company maintained watch yet kept mood calm. Even tension could not dim romance. Evening returned cooler. A small fire crackled. Venison strips roasted on skewers, their scent flicking hunger awake. Lyana fed Lucian the first piece, laughing when he tried to steal second bite. Liora offered Lyrian a berry she'd saved, placing it between his lips. He caught her finger lightly with teeth, enough tease to redden her cheeks. Wolves sat near flame, occasionally contributing opinions through low grumbles. Lyana's wolf. You guide each other better than maps. Lucian's wolf. And love tastes richer than any roast. Liora's wolf. Night grows gentle when hearts shine. Lyrian's wolf. Then let dawn envy the glow. Later, as stars settled overhead, Kieran played a gentle tune while Ella hummed harmony. A hush layered over camp. Lyana stretched on blanket, head resting on Lucian's chest, listening to heartbeat steady beneath ear. He traced circles on her arm, a silent pledge. Liora lay in Lyrian's lap, fingers twirling the willow crown now resting on his knee. They spoke softly about raising pups one day in meadows like this. Dream not promise, but sweet possibility. At edge of firelight, Raven and Lucian the Lichen King shared quiet smiles, hands entwined as they watched. Aldrich leaned toward Thalia, murmuring that love seemed the truest armor their heirs could carry. Thalos stared into flames, staff resting across knees, whispering short prayers of gratitude to the echo. Deep night. Watch rotated. Kalen stood again, silhouette strong against star glow. He touched the black feather tucked in belt, a reminder, but not burden. His wolf kept silent vigilance. Inside blanket nest, Lyana whispered to Lucian, "Tell me another dream." He thought a moment, then spoke. "I dream we build a hall where laughter echoes louder than war drums, and outside lily petals drift every dawn, reminding us of this day." She smiled sleepy agreement. "And my dream," she replied, "is a garden where wolves nap in sun, while children race along paths lined with moonflowers." Their wolves woofed softly, approving futures. Across camp, Liora traced the rune on Lyrian's wrist, voice drowsy. "Willow leaves never break in storm. They bend." He brushed her hair. "And we bend together," he said. She nodded against his chest. "Together." They drifted to sleep as embers sighed and night wrapped them in silver hush. Across their dreams, petals once more drifted, The same gentle blessing, reminding hearts that darkness might watch, but light had already taken root, too deep to be pulled. Night silence lay thick and alive, stitched with cricket song and the gentle creak of cooling branches. The fire dwindled to a soft core of orange, its glow pulsing like a slow heartbeat in the dark. Above, constellations shone with crisp clarity, as though the sky itself wished to keep watch over sleeping hearts. The twins lay wrapped in blankets of moss-soft wool, wolves forming a warm ring at their feet. Even in slumber, fingers sought and found their mate's hands. Their breathing settled into the same unhurried rhythm. Kalen paced the perimeter with quiet steps. Each time his boots pressed earth, he listened, first to the forest, then to the steady throb of his own pulse, then to the faint, collective pulse of the company. His wolf slid beside him, shoulders brushing his thigh. They stopped at the crest of a small rise overlooking the trail they had ascended earlier. Moonlight silvered every fern tip, every slick stone. Nothing moved beyond slow drift of mist along low ground. Yet Kalen's gaze fixed on a single pine branch sagging under the weight of a lone black feather, the same dark omen Aiden had spotted in the glade. Kalen's wolf sniffed the air, scent of distant campfire, cool sap, no trace of enemy. Still, unease curled like smoke. He reached out, plucked the feather, studied its glossy barbs. It felt warm, strangely, as though recently held. The wolf bristled, low growl rumbling. Kalen whispered, "Not tonight." He slid the feather beneath his belt and carried on. Behind him, a breeze drifted through camp, tugging at hair and loose cloak edges. Lucian's eyes blinked open. He felt the gentle tug, but more pressing was a flicker at the edge of thought. Liana's heartbeat quickened in sleep. Instinctively, he tightened his arm around her shoulders. At his side, his wolf roused, amber gaze sweeping shadows. Lyana murmured, dream voice soft. Her wolf pressed against her legs, issuing a calming thrum. Within moments, her pulse steadied and Lucian's own breath slowed in response. A dozen paces away, Lyrian startled awake, sitting halfway upright. Liora, nestled into him, blinked drowsily. "What is it?" Her whisper barely carried. Lyrian frowned, scanning dark. A shiver, nothing more. His wolf prowled to the edge of firelight, sniffing. Finding no danger, it returned and lay across their ankles. Liora brushed Lyrian's cheek. "No shadow breaks peace we made," she said. He exhaled, tension leaving shoulders. They lay back, fingers locking again, trust weaving them into quiet. Hours slid past, measured by the waning moon. Kalen's watch ended. Darius took his place, spear balanced against shoulder. He found Kalen's eyes. "All calm?" Kalen handed him the black feather. "Symbol only, but I don't like gifts from ghosts." Darius turned it over beneath moon. "Let it remind us that love still rattles cages," he said, slipping it into his own belt. They nodded, mutual understanding flowing between warriors. Dawn hinted in pale blue strokes along eastern edge. The first birds twittered tentative notes. Fire was coaxed into life with fresh kindling, fragrant tea leaves steeped in a hanging pot. Ella knelt, stirring embers, while Kieran prepared dried grains for porridge. One by one, company members stretched awake. Wolves shook out dew-specked coats, tails already swaying in greeting. Lyana woke to find Lucian propped on one elbow, watching her with a quiet smile. "Did you dream?" he asked. She nodded, eyes still glimmering with half-held images. Petals danced, leading us somewhere bright. You kept laughing every time one landed on your nose. He chuckled softly. Then I thanked them for aiming well. He brushed a real petal from her hair, letting fingers linger at her temple. She caught his hand, pressed a kiss into his palm. Nearby, Liora sat cross-legged, brushing knots from her hair, while Lyrian coaxed a wooden comb through the braid of blooms he'd created the day before. She hummed a tune, voice husky from sleep, adding whispered words no one else could hear. Lyrian murmured harmony, the low hum vibrating through his chest. Their wolves lounged side by side, eyes half-lidded, listening like contented elders. Breakfast gathered them close, bowls of thick porridge drizzled with berry syrup, cups of mint steam. Aiden performed the honors of ladling, brow furrowed in concentration. "Rations taste better with love," he declared, passing Kalen an overflowing bowl. Kalen raised a brow at the excessive portion, but accepted without complaint. Raven addressed the group quietly once dishes were cleared. "We make for Riverheart Ford before sundown," she said, studying maps spread across a fallen stump. "It will give us fresh water and vantage." Aldrich traced a secondary route with fingertip. "If Varric's men scout, we may meet pressure near the ford." Thalia shook her head. "Let them come to light. Blooming grounds have set our course." Lucian listened, arm looped around Lyana. "Fear deserves no seat among us," he offered. Raven met his eyes, inclining her head. Thalos agreed. "We carry bright threads now, threads that snare falsehood." The march resumed under rising sun. The trail wound through pines, then widened into fields of knee-high grass that rippled gold. Here, conversation sparked freely. Lyana quizzed Lucian on wildflower names. He misnamed half, feigning offense when corrected. Liora challenged Lyrian to spot shapes in drifting cloud banks. When he compared one to her wolf mid-pounce, she laughed so hard she stumbled, catching herself on his arm. Kalen jogged ahead to scout, but the twins needed no guide for their hearts. When midday heat encouraged a break, Lucian led Lyana beneath a broad maple whose leaves whispered like hidden harp strings. He pulled a leather cord from his pouch interwoven with strands of his hair and fine silver wire. "For you," he said, tying it gently around her wrist. "A reminder that parts of me travel with you even when hands part." She traced its braid and whispered, "Then take mine, too." She unwound a thin ribbon from her braid, deep red shot with dusk blue, and looped it around his neck. Their wolves circled, tails brushing ankles, satisfied by the exchange of tokens. Liora and Lyrian chose shade beside a stone outcrop speckled with moss. Lyrian produced a folded scrap of parchment, revealing a charcoal sketch of Willow Crown and Lily Pond, their moment captured in swift strokes. "It's rough," he apologized. She shook her head, eyes bright. "It's perfect." She slid it into a covered pocket near her heart. Then she pulled free a tiny pendant of polished river glass she'd found in the stream, threading it on a leather strip she'd braided during early dawn watch. She tied it at his throat, finger resting over his pulse a breath longer than necessary. Her wolf offered a soft croon. His gave a low, approving rumble. Travel continued until late afternoon when sky grayed with gathering clouds. Far thunder whispered over hills, a reminder that weather, like fate, paid no heed to mortal schedules. The company pressed on, hoping to set camp near Riverheart Ford before rain spilled. They reached the ford as first drops tapped leaves. The river, broad but shallow at crossing, shimmered slate beneath stormlight. Willows leaned low, branches stirring in rising wind. Kalen shouted instructions: unload gear beneath trees, secure tents, keep weapons dry. Warriors moved swiftly, wolves darted, shaking coats as droplets collected. Lyana and Lucian anchored tent lines while Liora and Lyrian gathered driftwood under a tarp for fire. Rain thickened, drumming steady, yet laughter still rose. Aiden splashed puddles, shrieking when Kalen lifted him by armpits clear of mud. Even as gray veiled the world, romance held color. Once shelters stood snug, the elders convened under a canvas awning. Darius reported no sign of scouts since morning. Still, he admitted an itch between shoulder blades. Battle sense unsettled. Aldrich agreed. Stormcloak's movement, he said. Watch doubles tonight. Inside the main tent lit by lantern, Lyana and Lucian leaned over a cloth map, tracing tomorrow's path. Rain hammered canvas overhead, providing privacy from outside world. She turned, seeing his face half lit. Desire thrummed quietly between them, deeper for being unhurried. She lifted onto toes, pressing lips to his. He kissed back, hands sliding to small of her back. Their wolves lay just outside flap, providing silent consent. Moments later, Lyora ducked into tent to retrieve blankets, apologizing for interrupting. Lyana laughed, cheeks flushed. Lyora smiled knowingly, collecting linen. As she left, Lucian murmured, "Every interruption only reminds me what I crave." Lyana touched his lips with fingertip. "Crave patience. Tonight belongs to stories whispered in storm." He kissed the finger, nodding. Evening fire sputtered under rain shield, but heat radiated. Companions shared stew of venison and root vegetables cooked earlier, bowls warming damp fingers. Conversations grew gentle. Ella recited a lullaby from her orphanage days. Kieran accompanied soft on lute. Aiden fell asleep mid-spoonful, eyelids drooping, carried to tent by Kaelin. The twins sat together near fire's glow. Lyora rested against Lyrian's side, watching flames dance. Lyana leaned into Lucian, listening to rain crescendo on canvas. Wolves curled at feet, offering warmth and calm. Thalos approached, staff tapping soft ground. He addressed twins with quiet gravity. "The echo ripples differently tonight," he said. "Your bonds thrum steady, yet something tugs at edges. The enemy tests from afar." Lucian nodded. "We felt the shiver." Lyana placed hand on rune at her chest. "But our light holds." The shaman joined, offering small pouches of dried sage and lavender. "Burn these if fear creeps in," she advised. "They remind the heart who leads." Night settled heavy and wet. Rain eased to patter. Thunder rolled distant, but stayed. Inside tents, the world felt small and safe. Lyana lay across Lucian's chest, listening to storm ripple. He traced paths on her shoulder, stories only skin understood. She whispered how his presence soothed her fears of disappearing. He murmured promises that her name would be breath and heartbeat in every dawn he greeted. They drifted into sleep, woven soundly by wolf breaths outside. Lyora and Lyrian lay facing each other, hands clasped between. She confessed a small fear. That quiet peace might slip away when battles resumed. He pressed her knuckles to his lips, promised that peace lived inside them now, portable and stubborn. Rain lulled them to stillness. Sometime deep in night's heart, Kaelin's wolf snapped awake, ears pricked. A soft rustle near riverbank. Kaelin squinted through dark. A shape knelt at water. No, only twisted willow trunk. Trick of shadow. Yet, on wind, drifted a faint metallic scent. Steel, distant. He shifted grip on spear, but enemy did not advance. Minutes ticked, rustle faded. He relaxed slowly, mind repeating Thalos's counsel. Hold fear in open hand. Dawn climbed copper and pale green, washing wet tents in fresh shine. Riverheart ran higher but clear, reflecting sunrise like molten glass. Camp emerged yawning. Wet cloaks hung over branches. Darius reported no breach overnight. Kaelin breathed easier, though he still fingered the black feather, now damp in pocket. Lyana stepped from tent-stretching arms skyward. Light glowed in her dark hair. Lucian followed, tugging blanket around both, stealing a kiss made steam by chill air. Lyora and Lyrian soon joined, clasping hands in greeting. Breakfast featured hot tea, bread crisped on griddle, and sweet berry jam. Spirits lifted. Kaelin informed group they'd ford river mid-morning, pace slow due to rain-slicked trail. Elders nodded approval. Before breaking camp, Lyana slipped away to river edge. Lucian followed a pace behind. She knelt, releasing a petal saved from blooming grounds into current. It swirled, then floated downstream, carrying wish whispered under breath. Lucian did same, adding his. Their wolves watched, heads tilted in mirrored curiosity. Lyana rose, brushing hands. I wish that love will speak louder than fear, wherever we walk. Lucian smiled. My wish echoes, that love keeps teaching fear to hush. He laced their fingers, and together they stepped back toward camp. Across clearing, Lyora performed her own ritual, plaiting river grass into ring woven with single white lily. She placed it at water's edge. Lyrian asked purpose. Promise to remember peace, she said. He fashioned a matching ring, adding a small polished stone. They let water carry both side by side. With sun climbing, camp dismantled, packs hoisted, lines checked. Wolves splashed first into ford, testing depth. Water lapped bellies, brisk but gentle. Twins crossed hand in hand, laughter echoing as cold bit ankles. Companions followed, elder wolves shepherding stragglers. On opposite bank, they shook water from cloaks and continued. Ahead, hills rolled green and gold, inviting. Somewhere beyond, Varric's ambitions simmered and shadows plotted. But between footsteps beat hearts inseparable, wolves watchful, and petals of blooming grounds tucked in pockets like soft blades against night. The road stretched long yet bright, guided by love chosen again with every stride.